Good morning. Good morning. How is everyone this morning? Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities on this Friday morning. Overcast where I'm at. Not sure what we're going to get today. We got a little bit of snow yesterday. I hope things are doing well for you. Hope you've had a good week. First off, if you're on, thank you for jumping on. Please go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and grant permissions. That way we can see the comments here on StreamYard. See who they're from. Otherwise, we just might see Facebook user says. So if you could go and give StreamYard permission, then we could see who the comment's from. That would be awesome. So what has everyone been doing today? What has been going on this week? What wins have you had? I'd love to see some wins you've had. What wins? Share a win, business, personal, church, school, kids soccer. What wins have you had this week? One I've had this week is, just being able to play with my son more, making that dedication, taking that time. That's been a win for me. The other day we did snow angels, and that was amazing. It was cold. I got snow down my shirt, but it was a lot of fun. And I'd go do it again in a heartbeat. I'm sure if you go on my Facebook profile or my wife's Facebook profile, you'll see me in the snow. So I'd love to see your comment. What has been a win for you this week? Awesome. Today we are joined by Michael Fabber. Let me bring him on. Michael, how are you?
I'm excellent, brother. How are you?
I am doing amazing. Thank you for jumping on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's my honor, brother.
Awesome. So, Michael, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Michael Fabber. I pretty much found a way to screw up almost every step along the way. Failed third grade. Only graduated high school because a buddy wrote papers for me. Was a whole world of screw up until I found out I was having a daughter. I was 20 years old. I beat my last court case. Found out I was having a daughter and got shot at in like the same week. That in return made me realize I wanted to be around for my daughter. So I got out of a lot of the stuff I was in and tried to live the life that I think you're supposed to live. 2011, my world came crumbling down, and I realized what a fake life I had and shot me in this trajectory now to live my purpose.
I love that. And, I've noticed with many people, myself included, how much or how such a sweet spot it takes to get us on the right track. You mentioned your daughter. You want to, straighten up and be there for her. And, same with my son. Many of the things I do for my son. And it's like, what the heck am I doing? Why am I doing this? Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
I swear my son looks at me, he's like, what are you doing, Dad?
Right. I'm used to that as well.
So awesome. And I love how you said to live your purpose. So I want to ask you how you define passion and how you define purpose.
So to me, passion is something that makes my body change, right? I think something that is so that you're passionate about has a physical reaction to as well, right? That you can pay attention to. And there's things that you're passionately against that makes your blood boil when it happens, right? Like cold spamming people in their inbox. Ah, my body has a reaction to when someone does that, right? And then it's like seeing someone understand like when the light comes on and they're like, oh my god, I can do this moment. That also has a reaction to me. All right, so my heart leaps when that happens. So I think passion is something that speaks to you in so many different ways, including one of the things that sometimes we miss passion, or we say when you understand that your body reacts to it and how it's reacting, then you can know why it's reacting. So passion makes your body react. It's something that drives your soul. Right? Purpose is your soul's being. Right? It's what we're created for. Now, I don't think anybody has like one purpose. I think we have multiple purposes. Right? Like I think one of my purposes is to be the father to my daughter. Right? I think one of my purposes is helping people live the life of their dreams. Like I think that is like I think one of my purposes is to end self-injurious behavior and suicide. I think that's one of my purposes. So it's not saying you only have one. I think we're here for many reasons, but I think that's how I would classify the difference between purpose and passion.
I I love that, and they're separate, but they're so intertwined. Oftentimes, if you're following what your soul, as you put it, is leading you to do, you'll find how often they're interweaving, or even sometimes just like this the whole way.
Right. I think sometimes understanding your passion makes you find your purpose.
Yeah, to go right along with that, sometimes your purpose is to find your passion,
100%.
and then, like you said, to help others do the same.
Yep.
So and I really like how you said there isn't just one passion or one purpose that everybody has, and and they might change throughout the course of the life. Like you said, one of your passions is to be the father of your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 10 years ago that didn't apply to me, because my son wasn't born then, so my passion was something else at the time. Or maybe it was, unbeknownst to me, getting ready for that occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
So I love how the universe, how God, I'm religious, so I'll phrase it God, puts those things in line, and how many times we don't even notice it.
100%.
Or don't understand it until 10 years later, 15 years later, it's like, light bulb.
Right. Damn right. Those light bulb moments are huge. I also think it's like climbing a mountain, right? When you climb a mountain, there's a certain part you hit where you break through like fog, mist, clouds, right? Like you break through that area and you can see clearer, right? And I think when we start going down our journey, the farther we go down, the more clear we see. So something that we didn't necessarily know or couldn't make out back there, now that we're up here, we can see it, right? So I might have not have known this was my purpose or passion because I wasn't far enough on the journey to understand it or to see it.
Absolutely.
So, right? I think we need to sometimes, like, I mean, I work with people, some are in their 20s, and they're like, I don't know what my purpose is, and I'm struggling, and they're like 22 years old, and I'm like, right, because you're developing it, right? Like, this is part of the journey, right? Like, some people don't know it at 22, some people don't know it at 40, some people don't know it at 50, right? Like, everybody's journey is their own, but to think we're supposed to have that together at 20, it's crazy. If you judge me by what I was at 20, you would think I was awful. Right? You still might think I'm awful, but if you think I'm awful now, you definitely would have thought I was awful then, right? So it's take a deep breath. It comes.
Yeah, and I love how you pointed that out, because so often, we just see what's on Instagram and compare. This guy's 20 years younger than me, and he's already XYZ. And it's so easy to fall in that trap. I've done that many times myself, and sometimes I still find myself slipping. It's like, why is this person so much ahead, or Why do they have this and not me or whatever? But like you said, each journey is their own.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
One of the hardest things to remember.
yeah, and implement. I think
Mm-hmm.
mentally implement. It's like you're not in comparison with them. You're in comparison with who you were yesterday.
Right. It's like I say, like if you get 1% better every day, you're 365% better at the end of the year, right? And really we grow to goals. So like whatever we want, we have to grow to accomplish it, right? So we have to grow to the level in which the goal is, and that takes time. Rome wasn't built, and one of my favorite quotes, Jocko Willink: Rome wasn't built in a day, and it wasn't destroyed in one either. Everything starts as cracks, right? And it's it's to remember that if anything is worthwhile, if anything is big, like your purpose, your passion, like what you're here for, your love, those things take time. They take time to develop. They take time to understand. It takes time to see the next step. And sometimes you're gonna have to take steps to realize they weren't the steps. Go back and take a different one. All right. So it's I think we're all too often think the results are going to come fast, and for the best things in life, they don't.
Yeah, and like there's so many different categories of results.
Mm-hmm.
Like this person may excel in this area, and you see it all over Instagram and blah blah blah, and they're whatever. And certainly not to throw judgment or anything, but they need help over in this category.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas person B excels in this category, but they might need help in this category. And that's why it's so cool to and so important to to serve others and support each other, because you, Michael, excel in a category that I don't necessarily. So if you can help me in that category and vice versa, and then we bring in person over here that excels over here that we both need, and then we help this person over there and they go help that person over here, it's a huge ripple effect. And we often forget that and only look at the one thing.
Mm-hmm.
We focus on what they have and what we don't. We forget where our strengths are and how we can help others as well.
Right. I think one of the things sometimes when someone says something like that to me, I would tell you your goal's too small. Right. Like if you could be lasered like this on something that's a big picture, your goal's too small. Right. We want to impact 1 billion people. Right. So I know I would have to live to 1.5 million years old to do that by myself.
Oh yeah.
Right. So the ripple effect you're talking about is huge for me. So I have to see big picture because I have a big goal. So I need to know, like, all right, if you're speaking to people, if I can impact you in any way that's positive, then you'll impact your people positively, and then that whole ripple effect counts into we're impacting, right? So it was like, let's impact the impactors, right? Like I always say, I empower the empowering, right? Like that's what we do. And why is because I know they're speaking to groups of people, communities, and changing other people's lives. So if I can help them, then I help them help all of them. And then that number is possible. But if I'm like, yo, why does that person have these people or doing this or have that? I'm totally missing mine. And then I would say your view's too small, personal opinion.
Yeah. And you need people to grow. It takes a community to raise a child, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, you'd have to live to 1.5 million to reach that goal by yourself.
Right.
But if you align yourself with the right people and stuff, and that are going in the direction that you want to go, or have the same passions in that area, and I think that brings up a good point to plug in. Tell us about Unleash You.
So I love this year. Everybody's like, man, you came out of nowhere. Like you're the new best thing. And I'm like, I've been doing this 11 years. This one thing.
Oh, sorry, not to interrupt, but one of my favorite things is my overnight success took 15 years, and that iceberg picture.
All right, yeah, dang right. And I was
Yeah.
like, me and Trent Shelton had a great conversation once, and it was talking about how it took a decade to be an overnight success.
Oh yeah.
Right. And something you were talking about is, especially when I was coming up, there would be guys that would come in that were flashing the pans, that would come in so hot. They would come in and crush us, like what we were doing, numbers, reach, right? They would crush us, but then they would be gone in a year, right? Because this is a long game. So it's like, it's not, I would say it's not fair, but make it worth it, right? Like we had to make sure this was worth it. All right. And without a doubt it is, because it's purpose, right? And your purpose is always worth it. So Unleash You Now came to be, originally it was CMF in 2011. One of my best friends took his own life. It was the second time suicide came close to me. I realized like I was fake as could be. I had the big house, the fancy car, all that good stuff. It meant nothing really. And I wanted, a basketball coach asked me a question when I was younger. He said, did anyone breathe easier because you existed? And at the point I was like 30 years old, and the answer was like, no. All right. And that's a problem. So I said from that day on, we're going to make someone's life easier every day. That's the point. And before, I didn't even know how to do it. Like we were hold doors and stuff. I'd carry things. I'd take someone's cart back for them, right? Because I didn't know how to do it on a grander scale. So I had to do it on the scale I knew of, right? And I've always been in human behavior, neuroscience. I'm a big nerd. And I started focusing more and more on that, but less on the degree part of it and more on the impact part of it. And we started CMF in 2011. In 2017, I realized I did not want it to be about me, right? All the big names in the space, right? John Maxwell, Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, right? Like, and the list goes on. Their companies are named after them. The problem with that is the mission they're on, does it die with them? Does 3,000 people go to a room in Orlando if John Maxwell isn't there? Do 5,000 people go to a room in California if Tony Robbins isn't there? I think we know the answer. Right? So I said, yo, guys, we have to change this up. I don't want this to be about me. Right? Like, I lived a risque life for a while, and I'm like, if something happens to me, I don't want this to end. This is a marathon, right? Like, this is a movement. Movements don't die. So it can't be about a person, because people do. Right? And if you doubt that, look, Martin Luther King Jr. was face of a movement, right? The movement, Martin Luther King Jr. passed away decades ago. The movement continues, right? Think of Apple and Steve Jobs. Apple realized that they were a movement-based business, right? And that's why they could switch products so much and people would still buy. That's why people won't cover the Apple on any device they have typically, because they want someone else to know that's in that movement we're together, right? The round hole, square peg, the one that's not meant for the cubicle. Remember that commercial? They gave you their mantra, right? They gave you their battle cry. They were like, this is us. If you're with us, you are. If you're not, you're not. Let's go. Right? And people were like, yeah, right? And that's a movement. So I realized that we had a business, and that meant it goes, if I go, and I was like, this isn't about me, and it's not supposed to be. So we named it Unleash You. And then like a couple months later, we were having an event, and they're like, Unleash You Now. And I was like, no, I like that. Unleash You, which is every one of us has a masterpiece within us, man. And it's not necessarily on a canvas, right? Whatever your canvas is. My canvas is the stage and the microphone. I'll rock that thing. I'll paint a portrait, right? Like you're gonna get the Sistine Chapel, the Mona Lisa from that, right? And we all have that. I don't care if you're the street sweeper, right, or the heart doctor, right, or whatever the hell you are. You have a masterpiece within you that's created to give others, right? Your gift is meant to be given, but your gift is here to create something magical for someone to inspire others, right? Like that poem goes, that you contribute a verse. We're all meant to contribute a verse, all right? So it was unleash your inner greatness. That's what we're here for, to get you out of the way and to show the world what you're here for, to show the world. And then now the second best time, it's like that tree quote, right? The first best time was to plant a tree 20 years ago, right? The second best time is now. The best time to unleash your greatness was years ago. The second best time is now, right? So that's where Unleash You Now came to be, and why it's called that, and that it's a movement based and it'll live on long after me.
I love that. You're thinking bigger than yourself, because like you said, you want that impact to reach beyond what you can physically reach, or the 40 people in your neighborhood or whatever.
Right.
And you were talking about gifts and masterpiece, and it made me think of something Ed Milet said, and I never thought of it this way. When you think of gifts or talents, you think of, he's a great speaker, he's a great whatever, he's a great this. But when Ed said it, you got the talent of, being generous with your time. Your talent is a good listener. Your talent is a great baker. Your talent is, you know, great hugs, whatever. You know, you've all got that masterpiece. And no one can do that masterpiece like you. You know, or
Awesome.
everybody needs your verse, as you said. You know, and I love that. And it opened my mind to so much more of what talent could include and what gifts could include. And I love that you brought that up. Um, and I want to ask you, you talk about following your passions and everything. Who gave you permission to do that?
Ooh, so one, I think always you yourself has to give you yourself permission,
Oh, I
right?
love that right there.
Right. Um, because not everybody close to me even gets me still, right? Like my aunt literally like every year is like, oh my God, are you going to be on TV on Dateline? Like, is it one of those like Jesus scams? I'm like, I don't even do religious stuff, right? Like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, but that's her mindset. Like, that's her mind frame towards things. And for a while when I was younger, there was two things that would happen. One, I would let other people's expectations limit me, which was my own problem, right? It wasn't theirs. It was my problem because I was letting their voice dictate my life. And at the end of the day, you got to dictate your thing, right? Like you got to dictate your life. Listen, there's no reason if I listened to what everything society or people in society told me, I would not be here talking to you right now, right? Like no person fails third grade and does this. No person doesn't barely graduates high school and because of friends and then goes and teach people business, marketing, sales, and then speaks life into people and inspire people and motivate people, right? Like they don't do that, right? Like I took 18 years in college to leave without a 4-year degree. Are you kidding me? Like there's a million reasons why I should talk myself out of being here. But here's the crazy part. What if your story, rather than you letting society hold your story against you, use your story for you? Right? Everything I used to keep myself away from doing this because of, I learned that's why I was supposed to be doing it. Right? It's like I could have had a very easy life. I could have. I chose to have a hard life. I'm an idiot, right? So there's certain areas where I'm like, I'm not the brightest or sharpest. Right? It's like my parents are good parents, right? Like it's life could have been nice. Like we weren't. I didn't know if we had or didn't have money, right? Like everybody had the same shit where I came from, right? So it's these things I didn't know that. I chose to be a punk, right? Yeah, I can say my brother passing and all these other things caused it, and life was hard, but life's hard for everybody. Has their own hard, right? But it's every reason why I shouldn't be here, or is it every reason why I should be here, right? Because I made all those mistakes. I ruined things. I destroyed things. Listen, I lost six figures multiple times, multiple times. I lost five figures multiple times, right? I lost five figures in a weekend event once, 60K gone, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I'm doing it anyway, right? Now I always tell people, don't do that. Do it, but know better, right? Don't do it the way I did. It's a painful lesson, right? And it's like I bought two properties. I said I didn't need any body to tell me anything about investing. I know investing now, right? Because I learned it. First thing I did, buy two properties in 2007. 2008 hits, all right, gone, right? Just hundreds of thousands of dollars gone. My first legit brick and mortar business I opened was a restaurant and bar. It's called Jam and Joe's. It was in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And after on year 4, it burnt down. All right, that was the time I learned I did not have proper insurance. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars again. All right, it's these lessons that you're like, oh my God, oh you failed, you can't do this. No, I did it. So now I know better, and I can help you know better before you go through the pain I had to go through. Right, so it's like the story we use to hold ourselves back is the story that makes us that where we learn the lessons, built the armor and the scars, got the thick skin in order to go forward and show other people they don't have to get those scars.
Absolutely right on. You know, on one of my other shows I did it's how do you change your focus from those stories to from woe was me, look what happened to me, this happened to me, you know, and certainly not underplaying what happened because they were tough events and stuff. To look what I learned because of this. Look how much better I am because of this.
Mm.
You know, so I love that, and something else I realized is, a lot of people will say, I can't do this because XYZ or whatever, or one of my favorites, because it's most personal to me, is I can't do this because my boss will give me the time off. you know, um and I realized after a while of that, I'm like, he's only my boss because I said he could be my boss.
Mm-hmm.
So we give control over to so much other things, and yet
Mm-hmm.
we can easily take that back. Time off work, this happened to me, my car broke down, I lost $100,000 this weekend, whatever. Or how easy is it to play the victim card in those scenarios? Or how easy is it to, I can't do this because, like you said, because this happened, because I don't have the money, because I don't have a way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, so figure out a way to get there.
All right. Listen, so I knew nothing about the personal development and growth space growing up. Right. And I just took one of the biggest losses in my life, and at the time was the biggest loss financially in my life. Right. That I was just like, I don't know how you come back from this. Right. So my buddy, a guy I know that is also entrepreneur, business owner, right, comes to me. He's like, Mike, there's a meeting I want to take you to. Will you ride with me? And I was just like, I'm like, I don't know, man. I'll just work, right? Because I'm a grinder, right? Like I love the grind. Like a lot of people like have a problem with grinding, and like now it's the war on grind. But I love grinding. Like I love my grind. So it's again passion and purpose. I love this shit. Right. So you're gonna have to try to get me to stop. I'm gonna do this till the Lord takes me home. You know what I mean? If it's heaven or Valhalla, wherever it is, until that point, I'm doing this because I love it. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm just gonna like try to figure out, recoup, come back, right? How we're gonna bounce back. I'm gonna put the plan together. And they're like, I just want you to come and talk about like how you did that marketing for your spot, like how you went from like nobody at your restaurant to having a wait, right? And I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Like I think it's a moment. This is ego playing, right? I'm like, oh, I get to go brag, right? And funny because I'm younger, right? And I still had a lot of ego and didn't know it, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. And I'm like, this dude completely played me, right? It was nothing about me going to talk about anything that I did, right? I'm in a room with people that have done it better and longer, right? Like I'm like, oh shit, right? Listen to their stories. I'm like, don't tell them anything about me because they're gonna kick me out. Right. So and we're going through this stuff, and like people are throwing out things they're doing and ideas and concepts and principles. And I'm like, I didn't learn this. I just dove into business. Right. So I'm like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like, oh, that makes complete sense. Oh, I love this. And at the end, they're like, Mike, he brought you as you get one guest a year. He brought you as his guest for this one. And if you want to join, it was like 10K, 15K, right? And I'm like, well, I'm broke. Right? So I'm like, do you guys do payments? Right? Like trying to figure out maybe I can right, maybe I can skim every month and make it work. And the guy goes, yeah, no, we're not Visa or MasterCard, man. We don't do payments. Right? And I was just like, wow, all right. All right. So I'm like, dickhead. All right. And he's like, but because you were referred to someone, that was it. It's because I was referred to someone, they dropped it to 10. It was 15. And literally you got the meetings, right? Like once a week you got to meet up. Right. And I'm like, I have to do this, right? Like everything was telling me I shouldn't do it. Don't do it. You don't have the money. You don't have the time, right? It's going to be effort that you don't want to give, and you're broke, right? So good luck just figuring out where to find 10K, right? And so I'm like, but I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, I will be this way forever if I don't do things. And yes, I might not get a single thing out of this, but I know I'm not going to get a single thing out of it if I don't do it. Right. So I did what every crazy person would do. And I had to get four different, this is how bad my credit was at the time. I had to get 4 different credit cards. And they were like those college cards where you get like 2,500. Right. And it's like 35% interest. Right. Right. So I had to get 4 of those suckers at 2,500. Right. I mustered up 500 of my own dollars. Right. Gave them, I went to this guy and I'm like, here's $500. And the guy's like, I'm not taking 5. Like, you need the 10. I'm like, no, I have it. Here's 500. And then can you run these 4 cards for the remaining balance, no more than 2,400 on each? And the guy was like, all right. And now he knows what I'm doing at this point. All right. Like, he gets it without me telling him. He understands I'm banking the farm on making this work. All right. And he goes, you sure? And I said, at this moment. So if you wait too long to run it, I might change my mind. Right. And so he ran the cards. And I'll tell you, because I spent that and was in that group for that year and built those connections and relationships and got all that knowledge from it and listened to the speakers they brought in and just some of the amazing things of it. It wasn't perfect, but it was amazing what I needed. That 10 led me to my first million from just understanding and gaining the knowledge of people that have been doing it 20 years and better than me. Right? I'm not a big person on like just experience wins, because some people are doing things really bad for a long time. Right? That doesn't make them better at it, right? But when you're doing it well and for long, there's something working. What's working, right? And there's clues for success, right? And because of that, that literally changed my life. And from that moment, there's 2 things that changed my life in the personal growth development space. That was for masterminds and groups and communities, and that changed my life, my businesses, and my family's life forever. So as a big a risk that was, if I didn't take that risk, I know I wouldn't be here doing this and talking to you.
Yeah. And I've got a similar story that I wouldn't be doing this either. When I first started, I literally had to Google how to put videos on YouTube.
Nice. I love it. Me too.
I had no idea what I was doing. I knew kind of what I wanted to do. I knew I had to share my stories and, connect with others and share their stories with as well. But I had no idea how to do everything. And kind of to go along with what you said, I use analogies a lot. I'm a big analogy person. I use road trips. If I'm taking a road trip from Utah to Florida, I'm not going to wait until every single red light turns green before I go. I'm not going to not go because there's a traffic delay in Alabama or Iowa or wherever my route takes me. So because I didn't know everything didn't stop me. And like you, I've had those, like that risk you just described, how focused on those moments and that dollar amount. We let that dollar amount block us, and that's something, I still work on all the time. We let that dollar amount stop us from that opportunity for the next 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm going to butcher this saying, but something like, fear weighs ounces, regret weighs pounds, or embarrassment weighs ounces, regret weighs pounds.
No, both work.
I'm sure when you were handed that $500 and those 4 credit cards, you were embarrassed as all get out. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they do this. I don't have the cash, whatever your thoughts were.
I was so scared.
But how much more of a regret would you have had if you didn't do it? You kind of covered that and stuff, You'd have been kicking yourself every day still.
100%. There's still things I do kick myself over.
Yeah.
I let fear talk. I'm human. I've let fear talk me out of things. Right. The first time someone asked me to join a 100K mastermind, like, what? Right. I'm like, what do you get? Right. Like, they're like, like these 2 trips and some calls. Like, with who? Jesus? Right. Like, I'm like, the first time someone told me that, I was like, that's crazy. Never, ever, 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 ever will I. Right. And then like 6 months later, I'm like, fuck. Right. And it's lesson learned. Like, we're all human. We've all let fear talk us out of things. And you said a great line, which I think part of our programming we have to view, right? Because people talk cost, right? But cost, we're acting like all cost is the same when it's not. All right. Just because the dollar amount might be the same for two things, it doesn't make the cost the same, right? And I think one of the things we have to change is the cost an investment, right? Is it going to lead towards assets or debt, right? Is it something that's going to serve me and help this movement, or is it something that's going to do this for me, right? It's because like that Starbucks might soothe your soul today, but long run, you keep doing that, there's detrimental things that are going to happen from it, right? Period. I smoke cigars as victory cigars when I have great days. I know if I have too many great days and I smoke all those cigars, long term, that's going to be a detriment to me, right? What I'm about, what I'm for, what I'm trying to accomplish. All right. So I think when we check cost, check investments, right? Everything you spend is an investment. What are you spending investing in yourself that's actually getting you to where you want to be? And what are you investing in yourself just to make you comfortable where you are? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, and it ties right in cost versus value.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that 10K course, how much value did that add to your life?
Mm-hmm.
Are you stuck on that 10K like you were for a minute? Or are you thinking of the value,
Right.
the 10 million value or whatever that dollar amount is?
Right.
Sometimes you can't even put a dollar amount because it's worth more than that.
Priceless.
Yeah.
Priceless.
You know,
Like most events are priceless. Being in the room, like the room, I always say, I'm not saying just our events, and any event went and ran well, and even not sometimes. The room changes lives. The connections, the relationships you build with people there, right? The introductions, right? Just the little like light bulb moments. I went to an event. I didn't buy a ticket. I have some good people in my life. I didn't buy a ticket to this event. My buddy's like, "Yo, we got this event up in Philadelphia. I want you to ride with me just in case something happens." So I'm thinking it's like trouble or something. We're probably going to like a party, a sporting event. That's what, when I hear event, that's what I'm thinking at this time in my life. All right, so I'm like, all right, I'll ride with you. Right, and we go up, and it's like a day event, and it's like every big hitter now is there. Right, like you name them, they were there. John Maxwell was there. Gary Vee was there. Eric Thomas was there. Tony Robbins was there. Right, like you name them that they were a big name in this space, and they were there. And I'm like, oh, this is BS. Right, no one's coming here to do anything to you. Right, like this is I was lied to. Right, so the whole event, I'm like this. Right, in the back of the room. Right, every event has one of those guys. Right, or multiple of those guys back of the room, like, yeah, right. I don't care what you're saying, right? It just doesn't get me, right? I didn't take a pad out. I didn't write a note, right? Nothing. At the end of the event, they were like, "Mike, what do you think?" I was like, "Complete waste of time," right? We rode back in the car in silence, right? Like I didn't say a word to anybody. They dropped me off at my house. I went to my bedroom and I cried. I just sat there crying. I'm not a big crier, right? And I just sat there crying, man, because that event, man, every single person was like speaking life into me. And it was, even though I wasn't letting people around me know it, and I wasn't doing all the jumping up and down like everybody else was doing during certain speakers, right? But it was still hitting my heart. It was still breaking down my wall. It was still infiltrating my brain and my thoughts, right? And that changed my life. So sometimes we just got to be open to, or have someone make us open to, those life-changing moments that are going to get us towards our passion, towards our purpose, towards what we want in our life, right? What we didn't know existed. Like I didn't know the personal growth space existed to even be in it. Right. So I think sometimes the biggest thing is getting out of our own way.
Oh, that is huge. And it's an everyday thing. Because, you know, once you get out of your way for step 1, you're going to get in your way for step 2 and step 27 and step 800 million. You know, so another saying again, you know, the more you know, the more you find out you don't know. And so you're always getting in your way. It's like stepping on your own toes. You're like, dang it, why do I keep doing that?
Jeff Walker says a great quote. He says, "For every solution, there's a problem." I love that quote. And it's like the exact reason why just getting a tidbit of an advice from someone isn't enough. It's because they might have a solution for you, but that leads to another problem. So that's why you need that consistent mentor or coach or counselor or consultant or strategist, because for every solution, there's another problem on the horizon, right? So it's like after you put your shoe on, the next problem is tying it, right? Like it doesn't end, right? So it's understanding that for every solution, there's a problem. There's a problem coming, right? Like Les Brown said, you're either walking into a storm, in a storm, or coming out of one. And that's the repeated cycle of life, right? And it's like when we understand that, we understand the power of community and what saving years of our life by people that already have that information can do for us, that have applied theory, not just theory. Applied theory is always better. It's always more useful. When you have those things, your life can change, and it can change more rapidly.
Yeah, and I think that goes perfectly back into, kind of what you're focused on. Are you focused on the problem that's going to come up, so why bother continuing? Or
Mhm.
are you focused on where that next problem is going to help you grow to?
Mhm.
So just huge difference in how you apply it, how you utilize it.
100%. There's a rapper named Nipsey Hussle. He passed away a couple years ago. This dude's mind was different. Like he won a rap battle in LA, and when he was young, he was like 18, 19 years old, and he came out, and the guy was like, with that money, you're going to buy some chains and cars? He's like, no, I'm going to buy some assets. I'm going to buy some property, some things that would make me and my people money for years. And the guy was like, what? Right? Like, because you don't expect that answer. Like he was just different, and he thought different. But something he always said, he's like, this game's a marathon. Like this is a marathon. This is a long game, right? And it's the more we focus on the long game, understanding this is out here and I'm going for this, I understand there's going to be trials, tribulations along the way, right? So who am I to think it's going to go smooth or perfect? No, if I really understand that I'm after this bird's eye view back here, if I really understand I'm after this, all the way to get to this, there's going to be different battles, different things I have to grow, I have to learn, I have to adapt, right? I have to level up in order to get there. So that's why I always say, like, I always call small goals achievement stones, right? We're trying to get achievement stones along the way to our goal, which is big, bodacious, scary, right? Like, and it's like I want to end suicide. That's crazy, right? I want to end suicide. I want to end self-injurious behavior. I always call it I have a dream, and I pay homage to Martin Luther King Jr. when I say that. I have a dream. It's to end suicide. I know that might not happen in my lifetime, but I do know I got to do what I have to do in order for it to end. Period. And when you have that bird's eye view, that marathon thinking, that long term with the short term understanding, you're dangerous.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back to my road trip analogy. Some of my most memorable road trips have been on those detours, those unexpected delays and detours. I found those little hidden gems or things that weren't even planned. And those have been some of my most memorable, best experiences. So it's how you look at it and how you approach it, what those problems can do for you. So I've got kind of an odd random question, but I think it can tie in, and I think it's perfect right here. So what does barbecue have to do with passion and purpose?
You tell me.
I'm tying it back in earlier in our conversation where passion and purpose are not just one thing each. You know, passion for serving others, passion for enjoying time with family, passion for whatever. So that barbecue, sometimes I love firing up the barbecue and having my friends and family around me and just mingling and stuff. That's one of my passions. Whatever that barbecue is for you, I often remember that I'm not so much for like work-life balance. I like life. And so one of my passions is family, and that kind of includes a barbecue sometimes or camping for me, you know. And that's why I love doing what I do, because I can take that with me and I can incorporate my family and I can incorporate travel and I can incorporate barbecuing wherever. So whatever that barbecue stands for you, if that's listening to music or listening to whatever, or creating music, or maybe you actually do paint a Mona Lisa, on a literal canvas, So I wanted to bring that up because, I've seen your Facebook profile and you you like having a your family and friends around you and stuff, and it's not 100% just business and everything like that. And so I thought that was fitting to tie that back in there and get your thoughts on that as well.
All right. One, I'm so like you, I'm one of my passions and purpose is to be there for my people. All right. And I'm big on purposeful relationships. Right. Like I want to be purposeful in my relationships. I don't want to have a lot of casual things. All right. I like it's to me, I always say like I'm an all in type guy. It's I'm all in or I'm all out. Right. Like I don't do a lot of like right. Like that's not really my thing. The people that like come just around when they need something and bounce away when they don't, like they're not really my people. I'm like, all right, stay over there. Like we're on a mission. All right. And I love hanging out with my people. I love having barbecues. I love playing cornhole. I'm a big cornhole player. All right. I love that stuff. And my thing is I don't work. So you're like, you don't work all the time. I never work. I do everything I do speaks to my soul. It makes my heart leap, right? It lights me on fire. Every like my focus in life is literally to make my schedule full of having those moments and getting those moments and being part of those moments. So I understand sometimes I got to grind to be able to get them. Cool, because I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm after. Right? Like I'm very direct. Right? Like I'm not going to be a big bullshitter. Like I'm not going to sweet talk you for hours. Right? Like it's going to be like, yo, this is what I'm about. This is what I try to do. This is our community we have. Like this is what we work towards. Right? And we're pushing towards that. So when you're like, when you're like, you like to hang out with your people. I'm like, I bring my people with me. Right? Like, and my people bring me with them. Right? So that makes us that makes us keep pushing forward. Right? So when I'm going on trips to speak, like one of the best dudes I know on earth, Evan Anderson, he's our videographer and digital graphic designer. Right? So this dude's with me. Right? Like Alex McClure is one of my best friends for 20 years. He MCs all our events. Right? He comes with me for a bunch of stuff. Right? Like Margaret McClure, his sister, is our event planner. My mom's involved in what we do. Two other guys that I coached years ago are part of Fabber Enterprises. Right? Like there's not a time that my people aren't connected to what we're doing, and that's all because that if we can have it where our people are with us, what makes us go even stronger, right? Like think about doing everything you do with people you love for the people you love. What's going to make you do it more?
Can
It's
I
funny.
interrupt you for 1 second? Sorry.
Yeah.
1 second.
No worries.
Sorry, I didn't know you were still on.
No, you're good.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you.
It'll tie in. Sorry, I think that ties right in. My family. I'm here with my family. So.
Ain't right. Listen, don't never say sorry to me for your family, right? But it's those things, those moments, those experiences, that love, right? It's funny. It's like if I'm like, yo, you need to give me $20,000 today, you might be like, no. I'd be like, you need to give me $20,000 today because it'll get a cure for the disease you don't even know your family has right now. You'll be like, I'll get it. Right? And that's the difference. So, and then if we understand that, so here comes power part. If we understand that, what can we do to our mindset that makes us think and understand that if we can create the life we love and want, what will that do not longer for us, but for our family, for the people we love and care about, for the people we do all this for? Right? So when people say, how can you go so hard? It's because this is the cure for my family. So I'm going to go hard.
Absolutely. And again, it opened my eyes. I'm like, choices I make today are not just affecting me.
100%.
They're affecting my wife. They're affecting my son. They're affecting my future grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
If I slack off and I don't live to my full potential as best as I know how, they're going to pay for it. And I don't want that. That dawned on me one day, and it still continues to stay in my mind. I'm like, I don't want that for them. They don't deserve that. They don't need to suffer because I was lazy, because I was not doing what my soul brought me to do. So it really a burden, but at the same time, even more, it put more fire under my butt. It increased that passion because take for instance, you go to a concert by yourself and it's fun and stuff, and the concert's great and everything, but you would go to a concert with your couple of your best buddies or your family. How much more exciting is that concert? I want those people with me, like you were talking. I want my people around me. I want to grow my people. I don't want my people to just be 5 people. I want 10 million people, 100 million people, whatever. And we each contribute and share that same passion, that drive.
100%. The greatest part of Unleash You Now is not me. Period. Right? Like a lot of people come towards Unleash You Now because they see me or they hear me or they get someone tells you that working with me was great, right? Like whatever referrals and affiliate based, people come towards me because other people are like, you need to know this person. But I tell everybody that comes towards me, the best thing about us is our community. Our community is amazing. They're unbelievable, right? Like I'm lucky to be part of them. I'm literally blessed. They're better than me, right? And so when someone says like, what do you get? And I loved it because someone asked me why come to one of your events yesterday. And before I even could say anything, they were like, yeah, I know you're going to say it because it's great, right? Because it's your event. And I was like, you're right. Everything I'm going to say is biased because we put them on. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a Facebook post and just have the couple people that see it answer it that came to our events. And so many people said family, support, love, community. It was like, we're doing something right.
Yeah. And from what I've known you, I've just got like a small peek into this community. I've got the door cracked open and barely got one eyeball in there. And, I could tell just from that little bit that it's a great community. And I'm not even really in it right now. So I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it's been great knowing you. On your community and stuff, and we'll wrap up with this. Let's give a little plug about your event coming up in April, I believe. Is that correct? In Nashville. And then if people want to reach out to you, connect with you, where would they do that?
Awesome. Thanks for bringing that up, by the way. Our April event is April 22nd and 23rd. It's Unleash You Now Live, Living Life Unleashed, right? And we'll walk through one. If you're a business owner, or content creator, or side hustler, and you want to increase your impact, influence, and income, right? Every event, we go over those things and deeper in different ways for learning. I have different speakers in to do those things, right? Teach you how to do an offer, teach you how to lead gen, right? Or different ways of lead genning. All right, so you'll have the business aspect of it, but we do it in a movement base, right? System, foundation, rather than the old business. Here's a product, right? Like I think there's product-based businesses and mission-based businesses, and mission-based businesses live longer and do better. And everything we do, we want to live longer and do better. All right. And then the other part is people that just want to be unleashed in their own life. They know there's another level for them. They know there's more for them. Right. Like that's why this is why one of the things I love about us, there's going to be multi-millionaires in the room looking to be unleashed more, right? To get that next level. And there's going to be people that used every penny they have that they could find to get into that room. And they're both after the same thing. And that's freaking magic to me, right? That they're both just looking for the what's next, right? They're both looking for what's the next level for them, right? And that is something that's the magical. So if you're a person that's like, I know there's another level for me, I know there's more for me in this life, this is for you. And if you're a business owner, side hustler, entrepreneur, saying, how can I scale my business or bring it up and bring it to the next level and show continuous growth, all right, in a business and not build something to die. Think about this. Business owners create a business hoping that they can be in the 30% or less actually now that makes it 10 years. Can you imagine the amount of time and effort you put into something, hoping that it lasts 10 years so you can be in the top 20%? And of the 20% that makes it 10 years, only 4% is actually profitable. That's insane. Why would anyone want to do that? Right? And I was doing that for years. And finally, I was just like, yo, enough of this. We got to know a different way. All right. So if you're either of those people, be at the event in April. Right now, we have a special going on. If you buy the Be Unleashed book, which literally walks through, we reverse engineer, so we started where we were, where we are now, 7+ figure business, and worked backwards to where we were $0, zero impact, and zero income, and then turned it around and made a book saying, hey, listen, here's the principles we followed, here's the strategies and tactics we did. Some worked for us, some didn't, but you can pick what works for you. But so right now, if you actually buy that book, you actually get a ticket and kind of 2 tickets for the event itself in the book. If you buy a ticket separately, it's over $1,000 more. So my understanding would be buy the book. And that's Be Unleashed, and it's in Gaylord Resort in Nashville, Tennessee, April 22nd, 23rd. The resort's amazing. Your hotel room is included for the Friday night in the book. If you buy the offer, I would love to see you there and see how you can speak life into us and we can speak life into you. And if we align and connect as a community, and you see the family atmosphere we have and the family that we are and want to be part of it, that'd be great. Find me. I'm very easy to find. I'm on every social media platform. My personal cell phone number is literally public on all my platforms because I say no one's alone, and I have to really live that life. So no one's alone. You can always call me. That works against me sometimes because people text me some weird stuff. But but my phone number is out there. My email address is out there. You can find me on Facebook, Michael Fabber. You can find me on Instagram, the Coach Michael Fabber. I'm pretty much Michael Fabber on everything else. So definitely look me up, reach out, connect. And Kenny, thank you so much for having me on your show, man. It's an honor and a pleasure. You're awesome, dude. So thank you.
No, Michael, thank you for being on here. And, if for whatever strange reason you guys can't find Michael, find me and I'll connect you directly with him as well. We're happy to help however we can. Like you said, we're all in this together and stuff, and he's got some great things going on, and I recommend you reach out to him like now, like text him now. I want to see his phone go off like now.
Right. Now.
But and everyone for tuning in, thank you for tuning in, and please, again, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to myself or Michael or both of us. We'll help however we can and whatnot. Even if it's just something simple like how do you do this question, whatever, please feel free. No questions too dumb. Maybe restrain from some of that weird stuff, but no questions too dumb. No questions too silly. I don't care if I got that question 800,000 times last week. I still want to answer it for you. Michael wants to answer it for you too. And please remember to live your passion, fulfill your purpose, and explore those possibilities.